But in a situation where you find that
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
Welcome back. You are still watching Daybreak on Trust Television. Right about now, we're going to take a look at our dailies today on Daybreak, starting with the Daily Trust newspaper.
Yes, we have Daily Trust newspaper here, hard copy, and you can pick a copy in case you are yet to do so. It's quite early, I know, but you can just, make an arrangement to get one. Quite a lot of interesting stories we are seeing this morning. The first story there you could see is about 40 listed insurance companies fined 1 billion naira over infractions. And then you have the lead story there saying 18 months after Buhari's directive, Orosanye report still stuck. You would find the right there saying how lobbyists killed implementation under Jonathan. Report outdated, debt, head of service. We are on course, finance minister. And then you have, the graphical representation of the journey about the Oronsai report. And also you would see below that shock as suspended Kano black market judge bounces back. You would see by the right corner of the paper, NPAN gives November 1 deadline for newspapers to appoint ombudsman. You would find that on page 6. Village head abducted in Katsina. Why Yauri student release was stalled at last minute. These are some of the stories on Daily Trust today.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the stories on the Punch newspaper this morning. Right on page 27, you would find federal government FG personnel costs rises by 79.48%, gobs 13.2 trillion in 4 years. And on page 14, you'd find Pandora Papers. EFCC opens probe of Obi Odwa MPA boss others. And on page 14, you'd find NAF denies paying 20 million to save Buhari's plane from bandits. And on page 25, you'd find 750,000 empty supply gap. Forex shoot cooking gas above 8,000. And the big headline right there states, which you find on page 2, APC parallel congresses. Amosun Aregbesola lie may lose out party to back governors. And the rider is saying it's the practice to respect incumbent governors. They are party leaders. That's according to National Caucus member. And another rider states legal congresses won't be recognized. That's according to the APC. And then mass defection looms, says Muiz Banire. And on page 10, you'd find NSCDC threatens operators' arrest. Lists 4 deaths in Ondo, boat accidents. And on page 4, you'd find a woman flees as man hacks rival lover to death in Ogun. And you find on page 4 and page 5, fleeing Lagos task force officers shoot banker for protesting car damage. That's quite a sad story. And you get to find that on the Punch newspaper.
All right. On the Nation newspaper this morning, some of the stories goes, Minister Railway paying back loans, says government targets 6,000 kilometer lines. You would find also Kogi government to EFCC, disclose custodian of missing cash. Other stories say, MTN blames outage on 3G, 4G technical error. NNPC accountable, transparent, says Kyari. You would also find the lead story on the Nation newspaper. Secondus Anyao deepen PDP pre-convention crisis. You would also see the Riders they are saying suspended chair won't withdraw case. Southeast chieftains reject governor's candidate for secretary. And you would also find below the picture there showing you Buhari's wife seeks action against cancer. And that's the picture there you are seeing. All right, that's that on the Nation newspaper.
Okay, heading on to the Blueprint newspaper. There's quite a lot on the Blueprint newspaper this morning. APC nullifies parallel congresses in Lagos, Akwa Ibom, Kano, others. And the big headline there states, in one voice, Igbo traders, residents say enough of this. We've lost so much to sit at home. And the rider is saying businesses relocating from southeast. That's according to a Ebonyi commissioner. IPOB might lose Igbo support. That's according to Ohaneze. And still on page 6, it's time bomb waiting to explode. That's according to an Enugu speaker. Let Kanu off the hook to town unions. And on page 5, you'd find abducted emir of Bungudu regains freedom. Police confirms kidnap of 2 Lafayette University students. And on page 4, you'd find Ombudsman NPAN sets November 1st deadline for members. And on page 30, group pledges to develop Quran recitation skills in FCT schools. And you'd also find presidency will shift to south in 2023 through Swaga. That's according to Olulade. And you'd also find NITR board petitions presidency, minister over planned dissolution. These are some of the stories on the Blueprint.
All right. Well, then, let's get some perspectives on some of the stories that we just saw on the dailies this morning. Like I told you, we have Stella Iyaji, managing editor, Daily Trust newspaper, in the studio to discuss some of the stories that made the headlines. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome
Thank you
to
for
the
having
show.
me.
Welcome on the show. All right, of course, we'll begin with Daily Trust. The lead story there says 18 months after Buhari's directive, Oron-Saye report still stuck. Someone is watching. What's this Oron-Saye report all about? Can you take us through maybe some of the highlights of this report?
You see, the thing is, the Oron-Saye report has been there for a very long time. It came in under the Jonathan administration. And the thing about the report was that it was aimed at cutting costs at the end of it. Because what they recommended was that there was a need to merge some of these ministries and MDAs. There was a need to merge some of them so that we do not have bloated working, so that we do not have too many staff that are not doing enough. If you look at our budget, the Nigerian budget, every year we spend so much on recurrent more than the capital. In fact, sometimes we even borrow to supplement the recurring. And most of that recurring budget is spent on salaries. So what this committee did was to say, okay, make some of these ministries and MDAs and all of that so that we have a smaller workforce. And people, for instance, in Nigeria today, you see some agencies that are doing things that are similar. So what the report is saying that bring these people together and then you cut costs. For instance, if you have all of them working separately, you need to have structures, you need to have vehicles, and then you need the maintenance and all of that. So the report is saying reduce this and, then we spend less. Unfortunately, this report has been there on the shelf, just like many other reports that we have in this country. Mm-hmm. You go through, there will be painstaking job done to get the report. A white paper will even be issued, but then nothing will be done. It's very unfortunate that after the Jonathan administration left, the Buhari administration came in, and 18 months after, nothing has been done about this. Well, especially at a time when we're shouting we don't have resources. This is the time to actually say, okay, fine, bring this report, let's see what we can do. It doesn't necessarily mean sack people, but you can actually get people to do more if you merge some of these agencies and ministries.
So what do you think is stalling, the implementation, of the report?
Well, if you read the Daily Trust report, it's saying lobbyists, politicians, people who have interests here and there. But I can tell you that this interest, I do not believe, is in the interest of the overall nation, because there's a need and an urgent need to revisit this report, so that if there's any way we can cut costs, especially in the recurrent area, it's important to look at it. I mean, how do you have a budget that every year you're spending so much on recurrent and very little on capital? No country can develop like that. How do you borrow money to pay salaries? That's what we're doing at the moment. And I believe that if you merge some of these agencies and ministries, the workers may even do more. And when they do more, the country benefits out of that, you know, instead of just having... There are some offices
and
now
we're even talking about 2022 budget having a deficit of almost 7 trillion.
Already, and we're going to borrow to fund a substantial part of that budget. So this is the time to actually, I think this story came at a very good time, so that if indeed nobody was thinking of bringing back this report, this is the time to say, okay, let's look at this report. Do we have an overbloated workforce? Do we? I know when you talk about overbloated workforce, people start getting jittery to say, okay, you want to sack. But it's not really about sacking. It's about ensuring that people who are there to work are actually working. I can tell you that there are some agencies now where they have staff who do not even have seats. They just come in, they sign in, and they leave. And they get paid at the end of the month. Now, this is the time to look at things like that and say, okay, do we really need these people? And if they're not needed in this area, why don't we move them to this other area where they can?
Some of them that were even established maybe in the 60s and all of that no longer have relevance at the moment because of the changes.
Because of technology and all of that. So this is the time to say, okay, let's merge them. I mean, if you look at them now, there are some that you can merge up to 3 or 4. And when you merge those 3 or 4, you find that you're not going to have 4 offices. And then, apart from the head offices in Abuja, you have them in states, and you're funding them, you're maintaining them. You have project vehicles for these offices.
You have MDs and CEOs.
Yes, you have MDs and CEOs. And MDs and CEOs have other people working for them and all of that.
They have PAs and the rest.
They have PAs, they have so many kind of aids that you cannot even understand. So this is a time anytime you look at our budget, I worry. It's always recurrent. How do you borrow to pay salaries?
One thing's about the commitment and the political will to implement some of these reports. But because like you said, this is not the only report that we've seen. That, you know, there will be a huge amount of money that will be spent on some of these committees, you know, and then at the end of the day, they will come up with reports. I recall also the 2014 National Conference that, you know, a whole lot of conversation has been going on about that, you know, and a lot of other reports, the Ways report and the rest of them. And you find that implementation of some of those recommendations, you know, are lacking. What does that say about the commitment, the political will, you know, to, you know, do the needful in Nigeria?
The thing is, what I've come to realize in Nigeria is that if there's a problem, the first thing we throw at that thing is a conference. Or another thing is set up a committee. Or when they want to go too far, they'll set up a commission. But the truth of the matter is that sometimes the way I see it is a quick approach so that they'll stop disturbing us. So let's say this thing so that it will look like we have taken action. You understand? And that is why I think they don't follow it through. Because they feel, okay, we've set up a committee. That's what the nation wanted. That's what people were clamoring for. We set up a committee. So nobody really follows through to say, okay, the report has come. Because if indeed you are looking for a solution to that problem, you will follow through. You will ensure that the white paper comes out. There are some reports that there's, till date, no white paper on those reports. And now, when those committee members were sitting, they were getting allowances for the sitting. Some of them will be flown from wherever they are to Abuja. Money wasted. For what? If you're going to spend money, you're going to set up committee, then you should follow through, ensure that the report comes out, and then act on them. Sometimes when I hear that a committee is going to be set up, what comes to my mind is again or not again, because there are so many reports on the shelf. And when a problem comes up, a new problem, instead of saying, oh, a similar committee on this issue was set up, why don't we go back to that and see what they recommended? We'll set up a new committee. So we keep having committees upon committees. And in fact, if a particular committee does not do their work, we'll set up a committee to look at that committee. Yes, that's what we do in Nigeria.
So it begins to look like an avenue to kind of maybe silence the public,
right,
or maybe to compensate, maybe some kind of political compensation for certain
yes,
loyalists and all of that.
And sometimes it's those people that were shouting that will be members of those committees or their friends. So by the time they bring them as members of this committee, they are paid allowances here and there. That problem is just swept. It doesn't die. It's swept under the carpet because it's going to come up again. Because as long as it's a problem, it's a problem. So it will come up again. So the issue is, why don't you see through? If the committee, in fact, look at this Orosaya committee. It was a serious committee made up of very serious individuals in Nigeria, and the report is still on the shelf gathering dust. And we're borrowing.
Talking about committees, this same committee, they recommended that the federal government should discontinue funding of professional bodies and councils. Well, some would say that that's not really a brave move to make. What are your criticisms about this?
But should federal government be funding them, really? Yeah, should federal government be funding them? I do not think the federal government should fund them. The federal government has loads of things that it is doing and should be doing. Professional bodies should source for their funds. They should tax themselves. They should seek funding. But the federal government has a lot of things to do that will affect the average Nigerian, the common man. And it's time the federal government actually looked at the things that it needs to do and be focused on those things. And that is why it is time to go back to this committee report.
The head of service is saying, from what we are seeing here, that the report is outdated. Do you agree with that?
It's very unfortunate that we're saying something like that. The report that resources were spent to put together, man hours, money, and now they say it's outdated. How did it become outdated? Because action was not taken. If action was taken when it should have been taken, why would we say it's outdated now? And in any case, I do not believe that the entire report can be outdated. There must be parts of it that we can look at again and say, okay, let's take this part. Okay, this part is outdated because of time, but the entire report cannot be outdated. I think that's an easy way out.
All right, now let's take a look at other papers now. The Nation this morning, for instance, is talking about Pdp crisis. In the past, over the weekend, it's been congresses, for political parties here and there, and secondaries are now deepen PDP pre-convention crisis. Do you think that this is all about 2023, and are we making the right moves, really?
Everything right now is about 2023. Anything any political party is doing right now is about 2023. And for PDP, it saddens me that this is the path that they have chosen. The PDP was supposed to be, they are the biggest opposition right now, but they've not played that role at all. Because since this APC came into power, all the PDP has done is fight. So they have been fighting so much that they have not had the time to play their role as the opposition party in the country. And that is sad, because Nigerians actually expected more from them. The APC, when they were not in power, they were strong opposition. At least they were talking. They were issuing statements and all of that. But the PDP has not had that time because they've been doing infighting. And I do not think that that's the way to go. Fine. Now, as much as, okay, they've wasted a lot of time doing that infighting and not being able to provide that opposition that Nigerians need. But I do not think that all is lost. They can start now, but they cannot do that if they continue to fight amongst themselves. It is time for some people to sacrifice their ambitions. It is time for some people to look beyond that. I think why we keep hearing of these fights, and look at the APC, their Congress at the weekend was, factions here and there. And it's all because of selfish reasons. It's because everybody has an ambition. Everybody wants to get something. If the political parties are all about leadership, if they actually want to give Nigerians the kind of leadership that Nigerians require, they won't be fighting this much. Because, to lead people is a difficult task. So I do not think you want to fight or kill anybody to get that role, if indeed you're coming genuinely to rule. So, but if you're fighting because you want to get a position, I begin to wonder,
how would you describe the status of our political parties in Nigeria?
Nigerian politicians are all about what they will get. So the parties are made up of these people that are all about what they can get. So that's why you see a lot of defections. You see someone defecting from APC to PDP, and after some time it defects from PDP to APC, and then you begin to ask yourself, what does this person believe in? What does he stand for? What does he hope to give as a leader, really? Because is it about where my bread is buttered now? Do you understand? Yeah. So that's the kind of thing you see in Nigerian political parties. It's all about, the parties are the people, right? So it's all about what they can get. And
the conversation seems to be more about APC, PDP. We don't get to hear much about the other political parties, playing critical roles in terms of, they playing this role of opposition, like you're saying. And just now, we hear that there's problem in PDP, and it looks like we don't even have an opposition. What does that say about coming elections? Is this, does this tell well on, the coming elections in Nigeria and the need for us to have multiplicity in terms of political parties? Okay. When you see the APC going the way it's going and then the PDP going the way it's going, and then you hear some people saying they want to form a third force, you get excited because you're thinking, okay, maybe these people are coming to bring something fresh, right? And then Nigerians are optimistic. But again, in the past, if you look at what has happened in the past, most people that even come with this idea of third force, not all of them, some of them, they are not genuine about a third force. They just want to be noticed. And then by the time they come out and start saying, oh, we want to bring this third force and all of that, the big parties start poaching them because they have sold themselves on the national scene. Do you understand? So what Nigeria actually needs right now it's a party or a group of people who are genuine about the country, who want to actually bring that change that Nigerians want. If it's the APC that wants to bring that change that Nigerians wants, they can still do that. If it's the PDP, they can't. But if it's some small parties can even come together now and merge and say, okay, fine, we do not like the way things are. We can change it. And then this is what we want to do to change it. But again, they will need to do a lot for Nigerians to key in because they have done it several times. And we see that all they are looking for is appointments. They'll come out to them and say, we want to do this third force thing. Before you know it, they'll say APC. APC has taken some of them, PDP has taken some of them. And at the end of the day, you don't have this third force that you're looking for. And Nigeria really needs a group of politicians right now that care about the country.
What are we supposed to see? What should they do differently?
Yes, the third force, yes, or whoever is coming.
Aspirant, whoever is coming.
They should care about the country first. They should care about the people. It should not. See, what we have come to understand about Nigerian politicians is that they are all about themselves. No matter what they tell us, no matter the manifesto they bring, all they need to do is come, give us this manifesto, tell us all of this thing, and then they win and disappear. We don't see them again until the next election, or when they are coming to campaign for local government, for their party again. So these new people, or whoever is coming out, should actually, and Nigerians should also be perceptive. We should want to listen. What are they bringing to the table?
Right.
It's not just about, I want change. These people are not doing well. Okay, fine. They're not doing well. What do you want to do? We should want to listen. In the past, we have made mistakes where people have said, this person is not good, that person is not good. But we didn't listen. We didn't keep quiet to say, okay, this person is not good. What are you bringing new? What are you bringing to the table?
Yes.
That's new?
And with all this infighting that we are seeing and these factions that we are seeing in the political parties, it shows that this is the beginning of where the real issues about selecting leaders, start from. Yeah. And what does this say? All of these factions and everything. What does this say about the quality of, the kind of leaders that we churn out that represent parties at the end of the day?
We cannot claim to have democracy nationally if there is no internal democracy in the parties. So already, if this is going on, the process will be flawed. And if the process is flawed from within the parties, you can imagine what you're going to get at the national level. Do you understand? From today now, we're going to start doing stories of who are the losers and winners of the APC congresses at the weekend. Now, and most of these people that are winners, as it were, are not winners because they are going to bring a better alternative. They are winners because they have bigger godfathers. Like they say, I have a big God in Nigeria. They are winners because they have big God. Or do you understand? So I think internal democracy is very important because it is when there's internal democracy that you can get the best from the party. I mean, in Nigeria today, you can't really run as an individual candidate and get anywhere. So we still have to rely on the parties. So it's important for the parties to get their acts together and let them have internal democracy, because it is from a transparent process that you can get good candidates, because that means that for everybody in the parties to say, okay, it's this person, it therefore means that they have seen something in that person. And if you're bringing that person to the national stage or the state level, it's something. But if maybe the person is getting it because he has,
He has godfathers.
He has godfathers.
He's not a credible person.
He's not a credible person.
That's a problem.
Yeah, a huge one.
I think one other interesting, headline that caught my eye is the one on the Blueprint newspaper, which states, in one voice, Igbo traders, residents say, enough of this. We've lost so much to sit at home. We've seen how traders have shut down their businesses because of the scare of the sit-at-home order. What are your now? With this statement, what are your thoughts about the whole scenario?
I'm joining them to say enough. I'm joining them to say enough. See, the Igbos are traders. They get their money from going out daily.
We all know
they are
that.
business people. So they sit at home, they are destroying their economy. I've never seen anything that is more self-destructing like this. I sit back and I'm like, but why would you want to destroy your region because you're fighting for a cause? Yes, fight for the cause, but do it in a way that you don't destroy yourself. They are destroying themselves. I don't understand why, because you say you want a particular thing, you don't go out. And the sad part is that a lot of people that are staying at home now are not staying at home because they want to stay at home. They are staying at home because they are scared of IPOP.
Right.
They are staying at home because they don't want to be attacked. They are staying at home because they don't want their cars and their shops to be burnt. That's not the way to live. If a group of people have decided that this is the way to go, don't force it on other people. Do your thing and leave the others who feel that they still want to belong to the Nigeria project, as it were, or they still want to go about their legitimate businesses. And another thing you must understand is that as much as the Igbos are very industrious and all of that, there will still be, just like every other part of Nigeria, there will still be some criminals among them.
Right.
Those criminals are the ones that are taking advantage of this situation. You understand? They don't have anything serious to lose. That's what I feel. Because if they had businesses, if they had shops that they will wake up in the morning and go to, they won't subscribe to this sit-at-home thing. Because you're sitting at home for what? Okay, you say because the IPOB leader has been arrested, but then there's a judicial process.
Right.
Allow that to follow through and let the people go about their normal businesses. That region is crumbling and it's not proper.
Now, despite the agitations by the IPOP, with all of this and the reactions as well, it seems not all of the Igbos are in support of IPOP's cause. What are your thoughts about that?
Just like every other cause, not everybody will buy into it. Not everybody will support it. So I believe a lot of Igbos, okay, some of them are in support of it, although not as vocal as some, but a lot of them, even if they were in support from the initial stage, right now, because a lot of them are suffering from it, they are now beginning to if you, the Blueprint story said that the IPOB is now losing support, which is only natural because the people can no longer go out to fend for themselves, and that is a big problem. So, of course, that will happen. But then, nobody actually told the Igbos not to fight for their cause, as it were. The only problem is the mode, the process. That is what people are against. You can actually fight for whatever you want to through a legitimate means. You don't have to stop anybody from going about their normal businesses. You don't have to. In fact, what they are doing is criminal. You don't stop anybody from going about. Everybody is covered under the Nigerian Constitution to move about their legitimate businesses. So saying nobody, it's a criminal offense.
So, but there's also this part of the failure of the state to guarantee the safety of law-abiding citizens, law-abiding Nigerians. There are people in the southeast that are law-abiding citizens, but they are caught up in the middle of this. Like you said, they are scared of going about their normal duties. Does the state has a responsibility to guarantee their safety? And if that's the case, are they doing that?
The state has a responsibility to guarantee their safety. But what is happening in the south is, unfortunately, it appears like there are two leaders in the Southeast now. Because you see the IPOB issuing a statement, the state government will say, no, there's no sit at home. But the people will stay at home. You know why? Because the people are more afraid of IPOB than the state government. And they know that the state government cannot protect them when the IPOB attacks them. I don't know if the hands of the state governments are tied. I don't know if there's no political will, but I think there's something wrong somewhere. Because the people, a situation where a group is now able to determine what happens in a state, the chief executive officer of that state should be worried. And that is what is happening in most states in the Southeast. How can you be a chief executive officer and somebody else is calling the shots? That's what is happening there. And it's time for them to actually sit back and ask themselves, what is going on? What are we not doing well? If they need to seek help from the federal government, whatever help they need, they should ask for it. But the fact that the IPOB will tell people to stay at home, and on that particular day the streets are dry, it means that the chief executive officers have lost control.
Right.
And it's unfortunate.
You know, there's this statement that worries me. The town unions are saying, let Kanu off the hook. And I know this is coming because of the scare. What are your thoughts about that? Should Kanu be let off the hook just like that?
No, I think what they should be asking for is expedite the judicial process. Let the judicial process be followed through. If he needs to be arraigned in court today, the security agencies should ensure that he's in court. Let the process be expedited so that we can see this thing to a logical conclusion. Kanu is not being held because he was a normal citizen in his house and somebody went and picked him up. He's being held for certain offenses, and he has to answer for those offenses. You can't just let him off the hook. If you do that, what signal will you be sending? What message will you be sending to every other Nigerian? That you can get up and do A and B and somebody will say, you know. So what they should be asking for is follow the judicial process. When he's supposed to be in court, is he in court? Does he have a lawyer? Is he being allowed to speak to his lawyer? Those are the issues they should be asking for. And then they should monitor the process. If at any point he doesn't have a lawyer or something, he's not in court, they should ask why he was supposed to be arraigned today, why was he not arraigned? They should follow that, you know, they will know that, you know, they are genuinely. But to just come out and say, let him be, he can't be let off the hook. I know that when he was arrested, some certain allegations were leveled against him. He needs to answer for them. He can plead guilty, he can plead not guilty, but he needs to.
All right, well, that's a very important point there. Let's take a look at some other stories. The Guardian leads with a story here that says, Ghosts of NSAS, that's a ghost of hashtag NSAS hunts FG's policies on power, petrol subsidies. You would also see certain writers saying LCCI estimates losses at about 700 billion. Economists say over 1 trillion lost to mayhem. Insurers settled 5.4 billion naira. Hashtag NSAS claims. Private sector, government yet to recover from NSAS, says ex-LCCI boss. That's the lead story on The Guardian this morning. Like we've been talking about reports, committees, and so on and so forth. We saw the NSAS panel that was set up, you know, in the wake of the NSAS protest, and a whole lot was done. It took months, about some of them 6 months, you know, to, you know, conclude on the investigations that they were doing. But we are seeing that some of those issues are yet to be resolved completely. Here, The Guardian is leading with the stories. What are your thoughts on this?
During the NSAS, some people were injured, some people lost property, and all of that needs to be addressed. It was a good thing that that panel was set up, but the panel needs to conclude its work, everything, and ensure that anybody that needs to be compensated is compensated. Anybody that needs to be punished, if it's on the part of the protesters or on the part of the security agents, they should be punished. Closure is important, because if that is not done, issues will still come up. You understand? At the weekend, there was this call on social media for people to come out for the anniversary of the NSAS. Do you understand? And I was thinking in my head, I hope this does not turn into another crisis. Do you get?
Yeah.
So it's important for the report. They took a break, a long break, and then they
Right.
just came back. It's important for them to sit down and conclude that work so that there will be closure for everybody concerned, and then we can move forward from there.
You know, during the NSAS protest, even when government came out to say, oh, okay, we are going to set up a panel to look at the concerns that were raised and all of that, the protesters were reluctant about leaving the streets because as far as they're concerned, going that route, setting up committee is like a dead end because like we've always seen, set up panel committee, at the end of the day, the report, you don't get to hear anything on the recommendations and all of that.
Yeah.
How important is ending this process to, you know, in terms of regaining the confidence of the public and trust, you know, and all of that?
That's the only way out. You understand? So you cannot overemphasize its importance because, as like you said, they were reluctant because people will be like, another committee, another panel. So what will come out of it? Do you understand? In fact, so there are Nigerians that would rather do whatever it is they need to do rather than go face a panel. Do you understand? They will take the laws into their hands. And why would they do that? Because they do not have confidence in your panel. They don't have confidence in your committee. I think the government will do well to use this as an example that indeed we'll set up a committee and we follow through. They should ensure that the recommendations are followed through. Let them, whatever is recommended should be implemented. Do you understand? And let's not go back to those days of NSAS, and you know, they should ensure that this new group that replaced the SARS people do not follow that route any longer and all of that. And ensure that anybody, those to be compensated should be compensated, and it should be seen by members of the public that was done. Those to be punished. If they are security agents, name and shame, call their names out. Say, okay, this person did this was what he did during he didn't act in a civil manner towards the protesters and all of that. So because of that, he's going to be punished for this. Do all of that and let people see that you have done that so that Nigerians can believe that, okay, when you say you're setting up a panel, you actually have you intend to see through and
believe in the process.
Believe in the process yourself.
Another topic of interest as well on the Blueprint newspaper is the release of the Emir of Bungudu, who regained freedom recently. And another shocking one was the headline that states police confirm kidnap of 2 Lafayette varsity students.
So it's becoming like a case of release, abduct,
release.
I mean, it's sad. It's not funny, you know, but that's where we are today. What's your response to that?
I think government needs to go all out and end kidnapping. That's the only way out. It just can't continue. Nobody can travel now. You can't leave Abuja and say you're going to Lokoja, and until you get there, the people that will be calling, where are you, where are you? Do you understand? Because they don't know what is going on. And sometimes I wonder, how did we get here? This thing started gradually, and then we watched it get to this point. Like the system in Nigeria, things start and then we wait until it gets really bad before we begin to respond. Now, kidnapping has become attractive. So government needs to make it unattractive. I don't know how it is going to do it, but kidnapping needs to be made unattractive. Somebody will just be broke now and ask that, okay, and just decide that that's what I'm going to do because he's going to take the ransom. Do you understand? And it's very unfortunate. When they kidnapped one of our colleagues' neighbor not long ago, during the negotiation, because our colleague was the one that was negotiating, you could tell that the person was broke and he was desperate because he kept on. When the guy said, I don't have 2 million, it's okay, bring 1 million. I don't have 1 million, bring 700. Do you understand? So you could tell that he just wanted money at that time. Government needs to go all out. In fact, I think if it declares like a war, a total war against this thing, I think it will come to an end. Because this idea of we'll wait, one big kidnapping will happen, and by a big, I mean maybe one emir or one very prominent person, and then they issue statement upon statement. In fact, in the newsroom, I can actually tell you what the statement will contain, because I've seen too many of such statements. Do you understand? And then after we issue that statement, maybe after a week or two, the person is released, and then we relax again, and then another one happens, and then another one happens. It can't continue like this. Look at this one, students. Students. We're talking about a situation where we need to improve education. People need to go to school. You need to talk to people to go to school and all of that. How will they go to school when this abduction is going on? These are even university students, so they are a bit mature. Do you understand? But look at the situation where they are kidnapping primary school children. What will you tell the mother to allow that child to go back to school if he is rescued? What? So the quality of education, the number of out-of-school children will continue to increase because this is ongoing.
And that in itself is a disaster.
It is a disaster for the future of this country. These are the leaders of tomorrow, and they cannot even have access to education. Not to talk of the fact that people cannot go to farms anymore because they are scared that they'll be kidnapped. That one is on another side, because the cost of food today in Nigeria is due to that. When you want to quarrel in the market that why is it so expensive, they tell you that we can't go to the farms because of all of this. So it is time for government to actually declare a war on this, not make a statement, just make it. This government has just like a year plus to leave the office. If this is one thing they can end, honestly, I'm sure every Nigerian will be happy.
All right. Well, I think we'll end it at this point. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on the dailies on Daybreak. We've been speaking with Stella Iyaji, the managing editor of Daily Trust newspaper. Thank you so much for coming.
Great to have you, as always.
Thank you.
All right.